Hey everybody, thank you for joining me again on Danette's Kitchen. I'm just checking in for a minute to talk to you about preparing for things. We already know there's wars and rumors of wars, and there's famines and all the disease and everything that's going on all across the country, all around the world, really. Um, and it's getting hard. Price of gas is jumping up. People are talking about, oh, my, the gas costs this much per gallon, and how are the trucks going to be able to deliver this and do that? And there's all these mandates and things that are preventing our everyday activity from flowing the way it used to. Um, but of course, I have an electric bike, so I don't really have to worry about the gas. I mean, unless I decide to take an Uber or Lyft or whatever. But our world is changing every day. And with everything going on and people frontlining the foods where you go in the store and there's food or toilet paper or whatever product that you may be seeking that day, all across the front on the shelves, you go reach for that product and remove it, and there's a big empty hole with darkness behind. Frontlining. That's what I mean when I say frontlining. And this is going on a lot. It's been going on for months, and I've talked about it several times, and it seems to be increasing even more. And given that there is possibility of a conflict between nations, it'd be a good idea for people to have some stuff together. You don't have to wait until the tornado hits the ground before you go for shelter. If you see the skies looking different and the clouds are doing that rotating pattern and the air doesn't feel quite right, and even the birds and the animals and the squirrels are all like disappearing, nature knows something is up. We need to become more mindful and recognize when something is up too. So it's a good idea to have our stuff together so that we don't have ourselves in a bind. So, what do I mean by having our stuff together? Keeping a little extra cash on you. Um, that's one helpful thing. Because it was years ago when we had the Hurricane Katrina, and I was still going back and forth to work because I'm in the upper Midwest. How is the Hurricane Katrina going to impact my life? Well, it did in the sense that some kind of way the electronics and all the internet and computer systems were all mixed up and got all messed up. And so when I went to the ATM to get my money out at the bank, because the inside of the bank wasn't open yet, and I thought I'd drop off there and get a little cash before I go to work, the machines wouldn't work. It's like living here in this town, moving here, and 3 days after I moved here, huge storm comes, straight line winds, hits a tree that hits a power line that knocks out the power for blocks, meaning the grocery store that had no electricity, the gas station had no power, all the homes around the area that I had just moved in that I was not really familiar with yet had no power. I couldn't get anything to eat. I was relying on what I had in the refrigerator, which only stayed halfway decent for a very small amount of time. It's a refrigerator, and if there's no power, things are eventually going to warm up in there. So I ended up having to throw away a lot of stuff, um, which is why now I like to have multiple options for things and for how to keep things, at proper temperature. I do have a little stuff in the refrigerator, but I do have freezer backup space so that I keep stuff in the freezer. I have dehydrated stuff. I have canned goods. It's good to have multiple options and to know how to use those options. And it doesn't mean that you have to prepare everything exactly when you are planning on eating it or drinking it or consuming it. Sometimes it's just good to be able to get those potatoes or get those onions on sale. Get a sack of onions and slice them thin, put them on a food dehydrator, let them dry overnight, pack them all up, and that one sack of onions, which raw would have lasted for a shorter amount of time because they're either going to start growing green stuff on the top or they're going to start smelling funny, in which point they're going to need to go in the garbage. And then that's waste. And I really don't like, really, I just don't like wasting food. Uh, but dehydrating them, they last me all winter. And winter where I live can be 5 to 6 months, depending on the year. It goes quite long. But that way I'm not wasting. It's just like, you can do the same thing. People say, well, why don't you just put grapes on there and make raisins? Well, I could, or I can just eat the grapes. If I'm really not motivated to eat the grapes, then I suppose I could make raisins out of them. But honestly, if I'm getting grapes, I'm probably just going to eat them for what they are. Um, but things like onions or sweet potatoes, yeah, that kind of thing, you can dehydrate it very well and put it up, and it will last a long time. And there's a process for reconstituting it so that it brings that flavor back and brings that shape and form of it back. So, stacking up, putting away foods in an organized manner in jars or coffee tins or whatever situation works best for you. I will try to do another video soon on the different storing processes and packaging processes so you can see how I put my stuff together and I'm able to store it and stack it up and to be able to catalog things so I know how much I have and pretty much how long it will last me. It's different if you are in a household of two or three or four or whatever, but if it's just me and the cat, I can know what I need for myself and I can know how much what I have for the cat will last. So, those are some things to seriously consider, especially with gas prices going up and all the other things happening. Another thing that's been going on recently is that um, there's been a lot of stuff happening in communities. People have been getting carjacked. I mean, by kids, basically. If you're 12 to 14 years old, I have to call you a kid. You're a minor. And kids are doing this. Where are the parents? I would love to know. Parents, grandparents, I don't know what's going on. But I know that some terrible things are happening, and this is not how things were when I was growing up. When I was growing up, if I did something wrong, I would get in trouble with my neighbor first, who would catch me and take me by the ear, take me all the way home, tell my mother, and then I get in trouble again by my mother. So, but in today's generation, people just kind of do whatever they feel like it. And there's much more acts of violence and things, and I don't know if it's related to television programs, video games, or whatever. But the negative stuff, if I see negative stuff in a movie or on TV or wherever, I just turn it off. But some people don't seem to be able to weigh that out and say, oh, this is bad for me. I shouldn't watch it. So, what do we do? If someone's trying to break into your home or whatever, that's when you need to have some measures in place where you can put things in the window to keep poles in the window to keep the people from opening the window, especially if you're in a lower level apartment or if you have a sliding glass door. have a long, thick piece of wood that will fit down in the ridge um, almost completely, just with maybe a little bit of a space where you can get your finger in to move that out on a day that you need to open that door. Just so that people can't just slide open your door and be up in there um, playing Goldilocks because we don't need that sort of thing going on in the community. Carrying one of those really annoying, loud whistler things that you put in your pocket and you pull the pin and it shrieks really loud and can be heard 1 to 2 blocks, about a block away. It can be heard for a pretty great distance. It's a very high shrill. Um, that's a good thing to have in your pocket if you're walking, even if you're going to the store and come back from the store and you're going to a vehicle. Sometimes people don't bother you while you're in the store. They'll wait and try to follow you to the vehicle or try to follow you home. So you have to look around and don't get caught with your head in the clouds. Really be paying attention to what's going on around you. Who do you see around you? Is anything like really weird or out of place? And let people know where you are or where you're going, especially if you're like using one of those transportations, ride, different kind of ride share deals. Let people know where you're going, when you're going, and it's even set up on a lot of those apps now where you can send that information to somebody else whenever you get in that vehicle. So they have the name, the face, the license plate number. And if you just get this weird feeling inside of you, something's not going to be right, just don't even get in. And don't be doing ride shares with people that you don't know. Some people have done that, and I've heard some really sad stories about things that have happened to people that have done that. So, there's different props and things that you can put up under your door. There's lots of small um, cameras that you can have set up so that if you come home and you feel like something just doesn't feel quite right, you can be able to look at the video on your small camera to see, okay, has somebody been in my place while I was not here? I mean, and it's easy enough. You set the camera up and it you can either buy the camera with the special vase or whatever where you can have the camera in there and it's not really noticeable for other people, or you can just get your own sort of little thing like this cute little herb garden, and there's a little camera down there. I put my little plants and things around it and put it on the table, and it works. It does its job, and it can pick up movement. It can pick up things in daytime or nighttime, and it was very, very reasonably priced. Very reasonably priced. So it's just another little protection for you. If you live in a multi-unit building like a condo building or apartment building and you're getting home and it's dark and you know that there's been crime in your neighborhood recently, or people expressing concerns about things that they think they've seen happening in the neighborhood, get to know your neighbors and say, hey, can we like switch numbers or share numbers? Like, that's what I do with my neighbor that lives under me. And if she's driving and gonna park, uh, she'll either call or text and say, okay, I'm parking now. Can you keep an eye out for me outside the window because something doesn't feel right, or I thought I saw a vehicle that I don't recognize from our neighborhood? Then that way I can be at the window watching and making sure she gets into her home safe. She does the same thing for me. That's why it's good to be neighborly, to get to know those around you because that gives you more of a perceived sense of safety, and it helps you to be not only aware for yourself but those that live around you, and, and, it's just good overall for everyone. And it's a way that you can make sure your packages aren't just being stolen, because a lot of these speedy truck drivers will zip up, drop it off, and take off, and there'll be some Joe Blow down the street looking like, oh, free package, 5 finger discount. They're ready to grab it and run. But if you work together as a community, especially if you're in a multi-unit building and you have a neighbor that has saw the delivery truck drop off your package, maybe that neighbor can make sure that it makes it from outside the building to inside the building where the door is locked. That could be a help. Just like if you were going on vacation and you needed someone to watch your pet or whatever, or take in your mail. It's good to have those relationships built up because it's better than being a lone wolf and being stuck with a lot of trouble. Well, thank you for joining me tonight. There was a cheese that was recalled. And of course, it was called Mi Ranchito Fresh Cheese with hot peppers. It's been recalled. And it's recalled because it may contain E. coli. It hasn't reached the sell by date yet. The sell by date is March 20th of this year. So it could be very well that some people still have it in their refrigerators. And this is just the type of cheese that I would go for. Mi Ranchito fresh cheese with hot peppers. Yes, I'd go for it because it has the hot peppers. I like the little spiciness that's added to it. But even if you've already bought this, if you purchase this and you've eaten part of the package but not all of it, even if you're saying, I feel fine, nothing really happened, the company is still saying, please just throw it away. Either return it to the store or just plain throw it away because E. coli is what I call the poopy bacteria. It's not a good thing that you'd want to have, and you don't want to get caught in that particular situation, visiting the throne for extended periods of time and feeling miserable at the same time. So, hopefully, you all don't have it, and if you have it, toss it because it's a bad batch, according to the company. According to the company, it's a bad batch. And if they're being mindful enough to say, hey, just toss it, it'd be a good idea to just toss it because at least they're putting your personal safety right out there on the forefront. It's kind of like if you were to go somewhere and you would order food from a restaurant and took it home and it was nice and hot and ready for you to eat, and you set it over on the table and you walked away, took a nap, maybe forgot about it for 3 or 4 hours, and then came back and said, well, it kind of feels okay. I'll just eat it anyway. And then you get sick the next day. Can you go back and blame the other people that prepared the meal? I don't know, because if you would have eaten it right away when you got it, that would have been one thing. But to let it set out for a long time and then go back and say, well, I guess it's probably okay. Or to have a meal that's frozen and then you set it out for hours and it starts to thaw, and then you say, oh, I forgot all about that food. Still feels kind of frozen, so it's probably okay. I'm just going to eat it. Lots of things can be happening to that you can't see. bacteria can be growing that you can't see. Just like with airborne viruses, we don't see them, but it doesn't mean that they don't exist. So we have to be mindful for what we do and how we, handle things on all fronts, basically. But thank you for joining me. I think I'm kind of running along talking about all this, but things are changing, times are changing, financial situations are becoming challenging, and I was told the other day that there are a lot of group homes that are even closing. Group homes are closing. There's some nursing home facilities that are closing as well because there's not enough staff to do the work. So then what's going to happen to all those loved ones, those family members of people, those people who some of them may not even have any family left? Where are they going to go? We are living in a time that has an increasing crisis happening, but it's almost like people don't see it. It's just like driving down the street and your car gets stuck on the railroad tracks. What are you going to do? You going to sit there and take a nap? Or are you going to get out of that car and move? Because once the lights start blinking and you hear the bell going ding, 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 and you hear the train going whoop, whoop, you know trouble is on the way. And I'm just saying, I think that a lot of those alarms are going off right now, and a lot of people just honestly are just not really paying attention to it. And I don't know if they don't take it seriously, they don't believe that it's really an issue, but a lot of people just are not doing anything. And you don't want to be stuck thinking that if you don't focus on it, that it's just going to go away. Problems just don't go away that way. That's why we have to use our mind to make a plan in place. Okay, if the power goes out right now, because, then what am I going to do? Okay, we had some brownouts where the lights go whoop, where they start to go out and then come back on. Okay, that's happening. That's weird. What am I going to do if the power goes out? Do you have a plan? Do you have a flashlight? Do you have a little miniature backup generator? So, what's the plan? What's the plan if you're stuck in a blizzard and you can't get to the store and you're out of toilet paper and you're out of a lot of things? What's the plan if you don't have enough medication to last, but you're not able to get out to the store? Are your medications set up to come through the mail? Mail order medications are often come 3 months at a time. If they're not set up in that way where they can come through the mail, have you talked to the doctor about being able to have things set up where you're getting more than just a month worth at a time, just in case something were to happen? What kind of plans have you put in place? It's just a few things to think about because our world is changing, whether we like it or not. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.